Welcome to Highline Excel class number 4. Hey, if you want to download this workbook and follow along, click on my YouTube channel, then click on my college website link and download this workbook. Hey, if you're in the class, just go to our week 1 website. Hey, in the next few videos, we're going to talk about formatting. Here's a completely formatted income statement, and here is the unformatted. So we want to see how to do style formatting. Then we'll see how to do number and formatting, and then we'll see how to use the round function to help us with formatting. Now here it is. Here's that same income statement. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these cells at the top, and I don't want to use the merge and center button because that gets people into trouble. Not only are formulas hard to create, but it's hard to move your table or insert columns or rows sometimes. So you want to avoid merge and center like the plague. Instead, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut for format cells, Control-1. And on the alignment, there's horizontal. And this is the trick, center across selection. And then I'm going to wrap text. Then I'm going to go over to border. And borders matter. You select your line first, then your color, whatever color you want, and then the outline. It's in that order. In earlier versions, this used to be on the right side, and it used to be on the left side, and people get confused. But the order is left to right, just like you read. You've got to apply it in this order. I'm going to click Fill now instead of patterns in earlier versions, and I'm going to select a dark color. Since I'm selecting a dark color, I'm going to go back to Font, and I'm going to select color, a very light color, and then click OK. Now I've I've formatted that, and I want to use that same format here and here. So watch this. I'm going to use the Format Painter. If I click it once and then apply it here, notice the dancing ants stop. I'm going to Control Z, but watch this. If I highlight this and double click it, then I can apply it as many times as I want. See that paintbrush? Click, click, and when you're done, be sure to click Escape to turn that off and the dancing ants. So that is formatting instead of merge and center and this great little format painter. Now I'm going to Control F1 to hide that ribbon. Now I want to highlight everything quickly, so I'm going to click in one cell and use Control asterisk, the asterisk on the number pad. And I'm going to get rid of that. I don't like that white border. I'm going to go to Home, and then the borders right here. Or I could Control-1, and then go to Borders and select Inside, which puts them, ooh, see the order matters? See how I just jumped to here, and it's got the color I did from before? So I actually have to select my line, select my color, and then do my drawing of my borders. Now inside, if you do inside right now, it does all the lines inside, vertical and horizontal. You can see right there, but not the very outside. If I had this whole selection highlighted here and just click this one, it would just do the outside. I want the outside here too. I want it everywhere, so I click OK. Much better. Now, I want to highlight these right here, and I want to add word wrap. In 2007, it's right there, which is quite convenient because the old method, you'd have to do Control-1, go to Alignment, and then down here is word wrap. Oh, wait a second, that's so big. Oh, but now let's highlight these two columns like that and click and drag. Now I'm going to double click right here to best fit that. Now I'm going to add some, oh, and I need to best fit here too. I'm going to highlight this range of labels right here, and then I'm going to hold the Control key and click and drag so I can highlight elements that are not directly next to each other. And then I'm going to use my button, which I added to the quat. I'm going to add a blue like that, and then my quat button, which we saw in video 1, how to build your quat. There we go. Now I'm going to add some dollar amounts to here. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut Control-Shift-4. Control-Shift-4 adds currency format. If I don't like that, I could Control-1 and change it to whatever I want on the number tab. I'm going to get rid of that dollar sign, and I'm going to show only 0 decimal places. Oh, but wait a second. In accounting, usually the first line and the last line, the bottom line, needs to have dollar signs. So I'll go back. Notice I use the Control key to select non-contiguous areas. And then I'm going to go to Currency and select that dollar sign, click OK. Now, these need to be percentages, so I'm going to highlight that. Control 1. Go to number, percent, and I'm going to select 2. Now, in accounting, it's important to have borders. We have revenues here and total revenue. So I'm going to highlight this line right here and Control 1. And go to border. And notice the top is where I want to line, because in accounting, these two elements then have some calculation here, which in this case is adding, right? So you put a dark line, which indicates the numbers above. We're going to do some calculation right here. So I'm going to select this line and then draw it. Click OK. See, so we got a line right there. Now we come down here and we get total expenses, so another one. Now notice this one right here, if I Control 1, see how I did it from the top? This one I'm going to do from, I'm sorry, click right here and Control 1. See how it's actually on the top? So even though I thought I was adding a line to the bottom of this one, I actually added it to the top of that one. This one I'm going to do the opposite. See how I'm still trying to put a line right there, but now I highlighted this one right here, and I'm going to put it on the bottom. Control 1. Click on that, and then click on the bottom, because I want it right there. They look the same, but they behave differently. If you have it on the bottom and you copy something down, the line will not be erased. If you have it on, if you copy something down here, like this right here, see how the line went away? That's because it was actually on the bottom of that cell. I'm going to Control Z. Watch this one. This one, since I highlighted this and put it on the top, if I copy this down here, it doesn't remove it. Control Z. So that's the difference. Even though the lines look the same and they indicate, hey, we're going to do some calculation on the numbers above, the fact that we put this one on the bottom and this one on the top has an effect when you're copying. Now, we still need a line right here for total, because we have this one means total up all the expenses, right? And then this line right here is going to mean calculate net income. So I'm going to highlight the very last one, the whole row, Control 1. And then I'm going to select this line and do it on the top, and a double line, which means this is the bottom line. I put it on the bottom. All right, so that's a little bit about stylistic formatting. Let's go talk about number formatting, even more important. More mistakes get made with number formatting than stylistic formatting. Let's talk about accounting currency, date, and time. Again, this is a fast-paced review for this intermediate advanced Excel class. This is stuff we covered in basics. But let's talk about it. I'm going to type the number 12.543 and then 12.555. Let's just apply accounting format. Control 1. Notice there's a 3 hanging out there. Control 1. I'm going to go to number, accounting. 2 decimals, that sign. OK, sure enough. Oh, look, it looks like it rounded. I'm going to click on this cell, Control 1. I'm going to go to currency, 2 decimals. We got a dollar sign. There's the sample. All righty, now, what happened here? It looks like it rounded. Here there was a 4.3, and here there was a 5.5. Currency format and accounting format make it look like I've rounded. But click in this cell and look up there. You can see the unrounded number is still there. Same with this. So later in our next tab, we'll talk about how that can get us into big trouble, because formatting is a facade. It's just what sits on top. Put this into your brain. This is incredibly important. That's on top of that number. All right, another thing about accounting. Accounting has a dollar sign fixed on the outside. Currency has it floating. So however big or small this number gets, it'll always be floating right next to that first number. Not only that, but the decimals in accounting line up perfectly, whereas they don't always line up perfectly with currency. Date format, I'm going to type equals 1 divided by 3. That means 8 hours out of a 24-hour, oops, no, wrong cell. Down here, time, equals 1 divided by 3. That number is going to represent 8 hours out of a 24-hour period. Hey, wait a second. What are you talking about, time? That says 0.3333. Oh, OK, but Control 1. And we go to time, and sure enough, look what happens. What? 8 a.m. That's the proportion of one 24-hour day. So the number that sits in the cell, you can see that right there, is much different than the format on top, format as facade. Let's type 39,800, Control Enter. That's a number. That's the number of days since December 31st, 1899. What? Control 1. I'm going to go to date. You see that's 12/18/2008. 12/18/2008. So the format is the date, and whoops, whoa, look at that. You can't even see that. That seems pretty hidden. Excel is programmed that way. You type in a date. I mean, you have a number, you format it. It makes it look like there. But if you Control 1, you can always prove to yourself by going back to General that that really is what sits in the cell. I'm going to click Escape. Now, why are these two important? We'll talk about these two right down here, and then we'll talk about this currency and accounting over on this other sheet tab. Here it is. The reason why they have the number of days since December 31st, 1899 is so we can do date math. Here's the day the semester starts. Here's the day the semester ends. I'm going to figure out how many days. I have to have fun with Excel in this class. Equals, hey, this is the later date. Remember, if this is the number of days since December 31st, 1899, this is more days than this, because this is a later date. So I take the later date minus the earlier date, and that is how you do date math. Now, in earlier versions, this sometimes comes out to look like this. Oops, Control 1. And so what you have to do is not get scared. You just did date math, just Control 1, and then convert it back to General. What happens in earlier versions is the formula sucks the formatting from these two and applies it. So 71 days of fun with Excel in this class. Now let's talk about time. We know it's the proportion of one day. So if we take later time minus earlier time equals this minus this, and Control Enter. Oh, yeah, that's formatting, Control 1. Go back to General. That's how much of the day we work. 0.4826389. Proportion of one 24-hour day. Now, how do we get the amount of hours we worked? Equals, in parentheses, the later time minus the earlier time, close parentheses, times 24. Because if this proportion here represents a proportion of one 24-hour days, when we multiply by 24, boom, we get the amount of hours we worked. Later in this class, we'll do more with time math and date math. Now, one more topic here. Let's go ahead and highlight this whole column right here. And I'm going to Control 1 and apply currency. Now, let's add this up. The keyboard shortcut for AutoSum is Alt equals. And sure enough, I can do that in my head. 1255 plus 1255 is $25.10. $25.10. What? $25.11? What's going on? We're getting tricked by formatting. If you increase the decimals here, increase the decimals, you can see that there was a 3 and a 4 hanging out there. When we formatted it, it just made it look like it was rounded. Now I'm going to Control Z. Look, it looks like it's rounded, but here's the rule. When you have some numbers, some unrounded numbers, and in cells or from formulas, if you're going to make a subsequent calculation and these subsequent calculation like this formula, no matter what it is, sum or other, does not look at the format. It looks at the number underneath. So this formula is looking at those extra little digits hanging out. So here's how you fix it. You use the round function. And as always, I have lots of notes in these workbooks. There's some notes about round, and there's the rule for when to round. 1, 2, 3. Rule for when to round, use the round function. If you use the result of a formula in a subsequent Excel formula, and you are multiplying or dividing decimals, that's if you have a formula, where you are required to round a certain position, you must use the round function. Now here we just had a number typed in a cell, right? But if you were multiplying decimals, and you would run the risk of having some extra decimals hanging out. So when you multiply, and we'll see this later in this class too, multiply decimals, and you're going to use the result in some formula or calculation, you got to use the round function. Let's see how to do that. I'm going to increase the decimals just to make this easier to understand. We're going to use round equals round. And the round just needs two arguments, whatever the number or formula is, and how many digits. Now, the way I remember it is, since there's 2 pennies, remember this is money here, so we need to round to that penny right there. I always put a 2. In the notes above, you'll see that 0 would round to the integer. So that's for taxes, right? So I'm going to put a 2 here. I just remember 2. And then since this is going to round to that 5 right there, I always remember, oh, if I want to the integer, 210. And that's how I remember it. All right? Now I can drag this down. And you see how the round function took those unrounded numbers or formulas, if they were, and actually round them. So now when I Alt equals, it gives me the right answer. I'm going to highlight all of these and put currency. You can see when we round, use the round function, subsequent formulas can calculate correctly. When I don't use the round function, then it runs the risk of making an error. All right, when we come back, we have one more review video before we jump into the bulk of this class. All right, see you next video.